That was the game that they needed after last week. Bears play their most complete game of the season so far, and the Bears win 24-18 over the Los Angeles Rams. Oh boy, this felt like a must-win, and we're in Week 4 with the Bears at 1-2. So were the Rams, by the way, after winning their first game of the year last week against San Francisco. Felt like a must-win for both teams because you don't want to go into that 1-3 hole that can prove to be really difficult to climb out of. But the Bears avoid such a hole because they win at home. They're 2-0 home now this season. And this was exactly the game that they needed offensively. Like I said a moment ago, Bears played their most complete game of the season. Defense forced 2 turnovers. Should have been 3. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the offense did their job. They scored 3 touchdowns. Offense contributed all of the points in this game. And they scored 20 plus. Well, this is the 8th game out of their last 10 where the defense has held the opposition to under 20 points. That you got to be happy with that from your defense. And that means your offense really only needs to have an average game to win the majority of your football games. And that's kind of what they did. But in this case, I wouldn't say average was an entirely bad thing. Because when you think about the average NFL game, the score is about 24-21, 27-24, 28-21, that type of stuff. You know, mid-20s. So this is, when you think about a typical NFL game, so the Bears scored 24, right in there, and that's exactly what the offense needed to do. The offense contributed their first 20-point effort of the season, because again, they scored 24 in Week 1 against Tennessee, but the offense contributed very little in that one. So the offense actually did stuff today, and let's start with the quarterback, because I know again. Talk of the town is going to be on Caleb Williams again. He looked good. I mean, again, only like 6-7 incompletions in this one. And, most of those incompletions were overthrows. But again, I don't think there was one throw, unless I'm missing something, that I felt like was a truly dangerous throw. Popped up in traffic or batted down and nearly picked, in a bad position. Like, if he was overthrowing the receiver, it was to a point where no one was going to be able to catch it. It was going out of bounds. So I think that he protected the ball well in this game, again, just like he did Week 1, even though he didn't perform well at all in Week 1. He protected the ball in this game. And again, no turnovers by the Bears at all. No fumbles, no interceptions, no nothing. I think that was a crucial reason to why they won this football game. They won the turnover battle, and they didn't commit any turnovers themselves. Look, Caleb Williams didn't need to be super flashy, and he wasn't super flashy in this game, and that's okay, because he played a solid performance, managed the game well, and the team won the football game. And this is, I think, a really important game from an offensive standpoint, not just because Caleb Williams protected the ball well, threw a touchdown pass, his first touchdown pass in Soldier Field. I'm thinking more so from a play calling standpoint. Everyone was blasting Shane Waldron, and rightfully so last week. A number of boneheaded, idiotic decisions. Option play on 4th and goal from the 1 after you ran it 3 times in a row and didn't score. Genius. But he made plays where he called the right plays, I think. I don't think there were really very many examples of where I'm like, dude, that's just a terrible play call. There was the one early screen pass to Cole Kmet on 3rd down where Odunze did lose the block, but it felt like he was staying away from those types of screen passes that he had been doing those first couple weeks. And it really helped because guess what? They were getting positive yards on 1st down. They weren't stuck in a ton of 2nd and long scenarios. And when they were, it was because of penalties and not a terrible play calling scenario. Maybe there was 1 or 2 examples where it was a bad play call, but for the majority of this game, it felt like the Bears were in control of the sticks way more than they had the last 3 weeks. Now, I think the interesting thing is that there weren't a ton of completions to receivers or tight ends. 10 out of the 17 passes were to receivers or tight ends, but no receiver or tight end caught more than 3 passes. Kmet had 3. DJ Moore had 3 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 3 in his return, and Rome Odunze had a singular catch. The offensive centerpiece that made this thing happen. I cannot believe I'm saying this after what we saw last week, but it was DeAndre Swift. This was the game DeAndre Swift needed badly. Badly. I mean it. He looked awful. Through the first 3 games, he was averaging under 2 yards a carry. He was flat out embarrassing to watch. He was downright horrendous. But in this game, he almost averaged 6 yards a carry. He was finally able to just start running north-south. And the offensive line had a great hole for him to just run straight through, deep, and, well, he scored a touchdown off of it. DeAndre Swift ran for more than 30 yards on one play on a run up the middle. The run blocking scheme, probably the best run blocking scheme we've seen all year, and it paid off with a touchdown. And, not only was DeAndre Swift running the ball semi-effectively in this game, he was making plays in the receiving game. He was a great safety blanket for Caleb Williams when the pocket collapsed. He needed to get the ball out. He got it out to Swift, and Swift was able to pick up some positive yards. And on 7 catches, he went for 72 yards, had a couple nice big plays off of it. So I think that Shane Waldron was able to play to his strengths, design runs that were going to help Swift see the field the way he sees the field, and he was great receiving. He was able to catch the ball, and he's got good vision when he receives the ball and has space. Not a great guy to run up the middle. And that's why you have Roschon Johnson, because he had the vision on a couple key plays, short yardage situations to pick up a first down, including, scoring from the 1 yard line, something they didn't do last week. Roschon Johnson also had a touchdown in this game. The run game was effective in this one, and that's exactly what they needed it to be. So it was a much, much more balanced attack than what we saw last week. The run game actually did something today. We had 2 rushing touchdowns, and they did their job. So if the offense does their job, and the defense forces 4 field goals, 5 field goal attempts, 1 was missed, there you go. There's a recipe for success. They let the 1 touchdown to Kyron Williams, but, the defense did their job too. Held LA under 20 points because guess what? When they were getting into plus territory, Bears defense was clamping down and not letting them advance at all. A couple longer field goals. I think Cardi only tried 1 50-plus yarder, which he did hit. But, it's he did a good job. And the Bears defense made some key plays down the stretch. And some key plays just throughout the game in general. Jaquan Brisker should have had 2 picks in this game, but he didn't reestablish presence in the field of play on one of them on a just terrible throw for Matthew Stafford into the end zone. But because Brisker had only stepped 1 foot out, he was out of bounds because the receiver who Stafford was throwing to was even more out of bounds. Brisker was out of bounds, took 1 step in, hopped up to try and make the play. He didn't get his 2nd foot back inbounds to reestablish presence, so the interception was turned into an incompletion, which led to the first points of the game. Or, no, I think it was the 2nd field goal that LA scored. But still, regardless. But, he got his revenge. Picked off Stafford at the end of the game to close the deal. And the Bears win. Matthew Stafford still had some time in the pocket, and he definitely showed you why he's still a starter in this league. He had that veteran presence, getting the ball out quick, making sure guys are open, and he's hitting these intermediate passes. He didn't need to stretch the field in this one because he was hitting these 15, 20-yard crossing routes. Matthew Stafford did what he needed to do at most times. He had 2 costly turnovers. One deep in his own territory where Montez Sweat blows right through the lineman and, hits the ball out. Kyler Gordon gets on top of it. And then that led to the Bears' first touchdown drive of the day. And, well, he had a big sack. Dexter had a sack as well. He's having a good season through 4 games. Already has more sacks this year than he did last year. We're 4 games in. And then you get Brisker, again, picking up a sack on the safety blitz. So, there's a lot to take away positively from this game. The Bears played a very complete game. And Eberflus wasn't in any position to make a dumb decision, I think that they played a very solid game top to bottom. And when there were some mistakes that were made, they were kind of minimized by either some good offensive play or some good defensive play. There were a couple times where the Bears were closing in on picking up another first down after some bad pre-snap penalties, which I think is the big weakness right now. They had some really bad pre-snap penalties, some really dumb pre-snap penalties. One that was really crucial on a 3rd and 2. Forced them back to 3rd and 7. Rams brought the house, picked up a sack, and the Bears had to punt. But if they can clean up some of those pre-snap penalties, that is huge. Because Caleb Williams looked more comfortable in the pocket, even when it collapsed. He was staying in there, and he was able to get the ball out. He still took a couple sacks, of course. There's still some things he's got to learn, his pocket presence. He still is standing in the pocket, which I think any Bears fan who has watched Fields compared to Williams can say Williams' presence in the pocket looks better already than Fields did in his last year with Bears. He was standing in the pocket when it was collapsing where if you're watching that team last year, Fields is already scrambling and trying to keep his eyes downfield but already looking to run. So there's still things that Caleb Williams obviously needs to learn. It's his 4th career start, but he needed a game like this where he kept the ball safe, protected the ball, threw a touchdown pass, and did what he needed to do to pick up a win. And, well, now the Bears are 2-2. They're 2-0 at home. They get another home game next week against the Carolina Panthers. I know Andy Dalton's had some nice games here. Torched that Raiders defense. Played, close with Cincinnati. But the thing is, those 2 defenses have not been good this season. Bears defense has. So you got to think they'd play well. Of course, it's still a week out. There's still all this talk about stuff. But, with all of the talk online about Chicago that I've seen over this last week, getting ready for this game, it really felt like this was the decider on the season. It felt like the season was going to be over if they lost this game. That's the way that it sounded. And now, things have completely changed. They come up, they get the win. Caleb looks, good, protects the football, doesn't make a ton of mistakes, takes a couple sacks, yes, but, things to be improved on, but overall a pretty clean game from the rookie quarterback. And DeAndre Swift had a game where he needed it. He produced. And he just was responsible for the majority of the offense. Which is, I can't even fathom thinking about that after what he did last week. After the terrible performance DeAndre Swift had last week. I cannot believe he accounted for over half of the offense today. Swift neared 100 yards rushing. And he didn't get the ball, and he wasn't carrying it 20 times. He had a good game. I liked what I saw. That is just crazy. Wow. Big win. Big win for this team. And you know what? When the Bears were forced to punt after the 2-minute warning, I didn't feel that nervous. You know why? Because we drafted a punter, and there's a reason we drafted him. Torrey Taylor had a great day. Torrey Taylor was great. Just in that scenario, Torrey Taylor pinned the Rams inside the 10. He pinned them inside the 10 again earlier in the quarter when they were down 1 score. I mean, Torrey Taylor had plenty of moments to shine in this game. And of course, I know Caleb told him, you won't have to be punting very much. This is why we got him. Trenton Gill was not a good punter for the Bears last year. Ton of touchbacks, wasn't pinning guys deep. And you don't really realize that and how important it can be until you get a guy like Torrey Taylor who can pin guys deep. And now instead of a 20 or an 80, 75, 80-yard touchdown drive that the opposition has to lead, talk about a 90, 95-yard touchdown drive that they have to lead. Down a touchdown. It completely changes things. A couple of other notes going forward. I'd like to see the ball be spread out a little more because while they were efficient offensively, most of it was DeAndre Swift and the fact that the Rams couldn't stop DeAndre Swift a little bit. I'd like to see some more involvement from some of these guys in the receiving game. 4 guys that weren't named DeAndre Swift caught a pass, and it's the 4 that you expect: Kmet, Moore, Allen, Odunze. So, I think that, if they can get some more attention here and he's going to be able to throw some of those, quick out routes or quick in routes, I think that there's some work, especially when he's trying to stretch the field. That's the big thing. But, I think what I appreciate is that he took a couple of shots, end zone shots and, late in that first half. But I think it was just important that when they knew it, that when they stuck with what they knew and what was working. They didn't try to just switch it up just to try something different. They had a scheme that was working, and they kept going with it. So I think that you got to play the team that you're playing on the field and how they're playing right now, and they did, and they were to pull out the win. I think that there's something else to be said that there was a strip sack in this game. Williams did get hit. Matt Pryor did fall on it for recovery, so that the Bears didn't lose, turn the ball over. But again, it's different when your team falls on it as opposed to it being a fumble lost. So I think that there's some importance to make sure that there's some good protection, because there were some moments where it's like, okay, can he get any time to throw? Can we protect him for maybe 3 seconds? But they did enough in the trenches to get the win, and I will give again the O-line credit for creating that hole for DeAndre Swift to score on. So offensive line had a much needed get right game. Even when Tevin Jenkins did go down, didn't feel like I was constantly yelling at the offensive line as much as I had the last 2 weeks. And that's a really good sign, even though there were some moments where I'm like, all right, can we stop with the pre-snap penalties, guys? But again, that can be worked on. They just got to have some better discipline with that. But, I thought that there was a lot to take away positively. Couple things to improve on. But, of course, all that stuff feels so much better knowing there's another tick in that win column. Well, Bears get a big win at home. Another one-score game. Every game they've played in this year has been one score. I don't know how much more of that I can take. You got to find a way to win by multiple possessions, right? Next week. Got to find a way, right? I don't know, man. They gotta use this momentum going forward, and this is a big win. But anyways, I think I've exhausted my thoughts on this one. That's all I've got. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more reaction content from me. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone.